coming off of a Sunday where I had a really good shot. I just needed that one more touchdown from Henry in the 222. I ended up like 12th or something like that, tied with only 4 people, so it would have been a really nice payout. But the showdowns have been saving me so far this year. I've made money on every showdown so far, and every one except for the first Sunday one. But every other, the Thursday, the Monday, we'll try it again tonight with the showdown stuff and the 2-gamer. So I'm looking forward to keep continuing. It seems to be working pretty well, the strategies that I'm trying, and we'll keep going with that. But we're going to talk some baseball. Sheets, how did you do? And we'll start talking through this baseball.
Well, since we're talking about baseball, while everyone was trying to figure out which Kansas City Chief guy was going to smash or which Jacksonville Jaguar was going to smash, narrator, they combined for 26 real-life points.
Right.
I got second in the MLB DK lottery yesterday, which on a Sunday, guess what? It pays $2,500. But we are talking baseball, so you asked how I did. So I did very well in baseball. Football, nice. I will whine about that when the time comes time to talk about how we did in football yesterday.
Okay, sounds good.
But yeah, I think we were talking about the content for coming up. Let me just throw a couple of things out there. First of all, I did something that I hadn't done, I don't think, ever. I did like a full 50-minute tennis slate breakdown today. And part of it was just a slate breakdown, but part of it was also to double as kind of a process video of like how to play, how to use the tools to build the lineups and stuff. And I went a hell of a lot more in detail than I thought I was going to.
Oh, nice.
And I will have to say that I'm probably making this up, but someone could prove me wrong. I think it's the only DFS tennis slate preview in the entire industry. I haven't seen one, and I subscribe and I look everywhere. So maybe we'll have a monopoly on the tennis slate. The other thing is that we're going to be doing a live thing tonight with baseball. We got 3 NFL slates actually, because 2 showdowns and the 2 NFLs. We got all kinds of combinations of sports coming between the golf and the MMA and the football and the baseball. Like 3 weeks till hockey starts. Not to mention basketball around the corner. Baseball slowly meandering down into playoff mode. A lot to do DFS wise, and not to mention, again, there's all kinds of variants within technology that caused us to kind of our site to go down for like a little while yesterday. But all worked out. A lot of stuff, good stuff coming, and a lot of good ideas to continue to improve. Now you mentioned that this baseball slate was going to be kind of easy. It's funny because I kind of think it's easy too. And I'm curious if we're easy the same way. So we'll see what happens.
Lousy tournaments too, just really bad.
Oh, you serious? Oh, because Monday Night Football, right?
Yeah. It's just down.
Well, it cuts both ways. The first thing I'll say is, when you got a problem with winning $25K, if you get first. But then again, my other comment is, oh my God, if you win something and it's $25K when every other day would have been 100, you might end up not being happy with yourself.
No, I'll be happy with the $25K.
Oh, for sure.
You have one tournament for that. I mean, there's no ball 4. There's it's Monday Night Football. That's why.
Yep.
Like you said. All right. Well, let's get going with the games. We'll go game by game here. Starting off with Chicago and Washington. So I think that there's like a number of ways you can get different on this slate. I'm kind of surprised that neither of these pitchers are getting any ownership. I think both of them are in play, to be honest with you. And I think Clevenger at 7,600, but no one's going to play him. I'm definitely open to it. And I know Washington doesn't strike out a ton against righties. They also do have a different lineup than it's not the same lineup that's been there all year. It's similar, but I think this is a spot where you can get a little different right off the bat. Clevenger and Adon, I think, are both in play for me. And I have no issue with either of the stacks. I just personally am not getting to them.
Okay, so we're right off the bat. We are in a little bit of disagreement with why the slate is too easy. So for me, I have the White Sox as almost clearly the best stack. And when you factor in value as well. Now there are a couple of others that might rate better, but just kind of pivot or do whatever. I have the White Sox right now. If I did my runs of maybe 50% owned on both sides. I'll have to look again a little bit later, but that's kind of where I am. And as far as the pitching goes, I am getting to neither. Clevenger, Noradon. So right off the bat, we were putting in that.
Well, yeah, but that's because all the projections are going to tell you not to. I immediately go into these kind of slates knowing I have to try and get different on an 8-gamer. So okay. I'm gonna always be a little more open when the projections are not going to like somebody. And
right.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. So I really like the White Sox. I have Washington as a fringe value play on the other side, actually, but that's pretty much it.
Yep, like I said, no argument, no issue with anything from this thing. I think that the pitching is the one thing that I noticed that was going to be a little bit off the board, so that's why I thought I'd bring it up. Also, Adon is like the only guy in his price tier, you know. But when I look at guys who are 5,400 who at least just throw pitches, like they're going to they can throw 95 pitches. That's always going to be something I consider against a team as horrible as the White Sox. All right, Philly and Atlanta, two actually good offensive teams. One good starting pitcher and one guy who had was a Cy Young, nearly won the Cy Young, I think, and Kyle Wright. So I like Philadelphia here a little bit. I'm not getting to Atlanta, but I have no issue if you wanted to talk yourself into an Atlanta, at least a mini stack against Wheeler. But and I'm not getting to Wheeler much either. But I may reconsider that as we go on. But as of right now, I just have Philadelphia from this game.
Yeah, I think one thing that we could do to make these, I want to say a little better, because I feel as though I don't want to say I rush through these, but I never go through some of the individual guys. I just keep forgetting. I think we presume everybody knows kind of like who to play if we mention the team. But let me just, for the sake of kind of blending.
I honestly don't think it matters with the guys. So I don't think that's applicable to this game because I think that
not this game, but I forgot to mention like when I just come out and say, the White Sox are like great value or whatever, it's probably worth mentioning. Like the cheap, the guys that are turning it into the good value, whether you like them or not. And I'll just go back there for a second. Like Andrew Vaughn at 3,400 at first base, he looks really good. And then these other, like Tim Anderson, he hasn't performed like all year, but he's 3,200. And then I know that Bobby doesn't. This guy doesn't really have too much power, but he makes the stack go. The Benintendi at 3,300. So I think that as I go through all this, like Jimenez 3,700. Like I think this White Sox thing is going to be pretty chalky. I mean, depending on how you go pitching wise.
I agree with you.
Yeah. So I didn't want you to think that like everybody to think, this White Sox is incredible off the board play. I'm taking a big stand on. I mean, White Sox, because these guys are all cheap. I mean, they're going to project really well, and not everybody, but a good amount of people are going to want to play them along with the team we're getting to in a minute. But that was it. With respect to the next game, do you like the? Did you get to so you didn't get to the Braves at all just because of the Braves?
I think it's okay to take shots. I certainly wouldn't be trying to 5-man stack against the best pitcher on the slate, but I definitely am open to an argument. It's the Braves after all.
Yeah, I'm probably not going to get to anything here. It's kind of similar to you. I would say actually that Philly is kind of an okay pivot off of the better options. So I would say that. And none of the pitching.
Yeah, and there's a huge sample size against Wheeler historically for these guys, and he's actually been pretty good against them for what it's worth. Just wanted to throw that out there. 78 strikeouts, 269 at bats. That's basically that's a little less than 30%. It's not ideal, but he is a great pitcher, and I think that he's going to be low on. So I'm gonna be open to Philly and Wheeler today. All right, Milwaukee, St. Louis. Why don't you start this one off, Sheets?
Yeah, I think Milwaukee's going to be the chalk here. Because Wainwright's pitching. It's going to help whether Yelich plays. Yelich was out for a while, but then they put him back in.
He's been terrible.
They put him in, and then they took him out again. Obviously he's still hurt, or he's just not not himself.
Yeah.
But I mean, put him lead off against Wainwright. Guys seen Wainwright 4,000 times. You know what I mean? Like I imagine that. I imagine that's a good thing. Anyway, all the Milwaukee guys are gonna look really good. I gotta watch the ownership here because this is one of those things I'm just kind of inclined to fade. I don't know, but they are gonna look good. Yelich, unfortunately, whatever. Frelick, Turang, leader of the free world. Play Adames from the right side. Play even Hot from the right side at 3,200. So all those guys are going to look good. And Peralta, as always, is going to look like really expensive. but has a lot of upside. So I guess it depends on your construction. There's like just incredibly chalky, great looking mid-range guy we'll get to later, and a couple of other good values. So I don't know if you're going to want to pay up for Peralta, but he certainly has got, especially against St. Louis here. I mean, he can put up 40 here if he's in the right mood. He's not always in the right mood, but he's been pretty good all year. So Peralta, I'll have to decide what I want to do with him. But Milwaukee certainly looks good. GPPs inclined to try to fade it, but and there's such an obvious way to fade it that we'll get to later. But that's what I like. Milwaukee looks like one of the best stacks, and Peralta, expensive, but obviously a lot of upside.
Yeah, I mean he's been terrible against this team historically.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Yeah. Mostly, Arenado just completely owns him for whatever reason.
That's so weird.
It's just he just doesn't. They hit I think 320 off of him. It's only about 5-6 starts, I think, but still, actually surprised it's not more. Peralta I have as worse than Wheeler, but I mean I'm open to it. I also think it's worth noting, especially in the Wheeler case, like keep an eye on who Atlanta ends up playing today. Okay. They don't have anything to play for. I wonder when they're going to start giving some guys some rest. Probably not Acuna, but they'll probably give some other guys some rest. All right, Texas and Boston sheets. What do you want to do here?
I have Montgomery as one of the possible SP2s, but it just scares it. I shouldn't say it scares me. I actually think Montgomery against Boston on the road. Yeah, I got to consider him as one of the top SP2s. So I do like him. I have Texas as kind of always a kind of a must play a little bit, So that's where I'm going to come in with Texas as kind of play a little bit. I'm not going to probably prioritize them. So I think Montgomery's fine and maybe some Texas.
Mm-hmm. I'm not as interested maybe in Montgomery. Maybe I'll change my mind later on that, but I think he's going to have pretty decent ownership, and it's just an ownership thing really, and his upside versus ownership. I think that playing 1/6 is owned or something, Clevenger is kind of interesting instead of him. I do like Texas. I think Texas will be low owned tonight, low-ish owned. And I would definitely want to get some exposure here. So I have no problem with getting to a Texas stack, a Texas mini stack, however you want to do it. Everybody 1 through 9 can play, and there's value down at the bottom with Josh Smith. So I like Texas quite a bit tonight, and a nice way to get off of the chalky White Sox and Brewers. All right. What are your thoughts on the Houston and Baltimore? Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, you would think that there should be some interest here, either on Verlander or maybe Houston, but I'm just not getting there. So I guess I'll leave it to you to tell me why I should be or why I shouldn't be. But I currently am not seeing Verlander project all that well, and I'm not really seeing Houston all that great either, even against means at home and all that stuff. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I think that Houston is totally fine. Means is actually a pretty decent pitcher, but hasn't pitched in a while, so I don't think it's bordering on a somewhat of a bullpen game, depending on how how much they want to let him go. And it's a really good bullpen for what it's worth. So a little bit of interest in Houston, and Verlander. You can put him in the similar category as the Wheeler, Peralta, Verlander. Verlander is going to be the highest owned, I think, of the three. And I have no issue with any of them, but I'm just sort of deciding what I want to do with my pitching. I think I might want to spend a little down so I can maybe play Texas, maybe play some Houston, maybe play some Atlanta, or even Philadelphia, who's expensive. So might need to save a little bit on pitching.
All right, I'm going to start with this next one, the Seattle Oakland, because I want to start with Brian Wu, and the reason why I want to start with him is because it reminded me of something I did want to discuss about the NFL slate yesterday. It was something that I brought up. I should have probably spent a little more time on it. Maybe I would have talked myself into it. The idea of recency bias, the idea that not the idea of that, well, we shouldn't just like blindly trust what we saw the week before, but you shouldn't also just completely dismiss it, especially at the beginning of the season. Especially if you see something that you like, don't just presume that because people say, oh, recency bias, recency bias, this, that you should automatically dismiss what had happened. And I point you to Exhibit A1 and A2, Kyrie Williams and Pakua from the Rams. Like, nobody believed that the two of them could do the same thing like a second week, and they just freaking just destroyed the slate, like the two of them. So sometimes, sometimes the most recent performance is the most likely indicator of the future. I would never. I talked about Pakua like that. Remember at the beginning of the week, I'm like, well, I'm sure Pakua is going to be 50% owned. He's going to, whatever it is. It turns out like everyone's like, well, I'm not playing that again, or I'm not doing this again. People played him, but it wasn't like as popular as I thought it was. And the Kyrie Williams, like nobody played, because people get too, I guess sometimes overthink things. The reason I bring that up is so Brian Wu I have is listed as one of the like 4 like kind of SP2s, and I've played him, I faded him, and I made the mistake of not only playing him in his last start, but actually watching it. And the kid was just freaking mowing people down. Okay. So I'm sitting here like juiced. I'm like, I want to play this guy again. Right. And then I'm thinking, I don't want to get into the recency bias or whatever it is. And then the other thing I remember though about that game is when I told you about the next day, I said, the weird thing is they took him out after freaking 5 2/3 though. And you said, well, to be honest, that's probably the extent of what his leash is going to be. So don't get too excited about this guy. Nonetheless, he is against Oakland. I just happen to have liked what I saw, so it's definitely in my short list of SP2s. The other thing about this is that I do actually have JP Sears at 6,700 rating as like an okay SP2. But unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to do it because I'm getting like 1,000,000,000% Seattle in my stacks. So that's probably where I'm going to end up. Is my majority of my exposure, my majority of my big buy-ins is to play the righties against Sears, and I don't even think it's going to be particularly earth-shattering at the end of the day. But that's kind of where I'm at. So Woo, Seattle. And that's where I am.
Yeah, I think Seattle will have some ownership as well. I think both these guys are fine. I'm not really buying that Sears is gonna that Woo is gonna be only 20% owned. If I really believe that, I probably. Right. The weird part is like the projections though. Actually, like yours are a little different. But like SaberSim has Sears projected as an outright higher scorer than him. So.
So do I actually. Oh, no, I'm based on value.
Yeah, yours are pretty close. But I think that I mean, look, the Woo thing makes some sense. It's also like kind of as we talked about, it sort of feels like it's a straightforward. Like I can tell you what to do in cash, and I think that I probably would play Woo in cash. The pitch limit and the fact that I think he's going to be popular, I'm just trying to find different things to do, and I don't mind getting to a little bit of some of the A's as well. So. No priority stacks for me here, but I definitely don't mind getting to either side, and I am definitely open to Sears. But it really depends on what I think is going to happen with ownership. So I'll revisit that one at 6 Eastern because if they're going to be the same amount owned, I think I probably would play Woo over Sears. But I think that if Woo is going to be 35 and Sears is going to be 15 or something like that, I obviously would have more interest in Sears in that situation. So that's what I'm considering. But anyway, we can move on.
Yeah, I guess you start with this one so I can start with the
Dodgers. The San Diego game?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think San Diego is another good stack. But I feel like they've let us down so much this year. There's a little wind blowing in, so I'm probably going to fade it at their prices. I'm curious to see how their lineup comes out today, but I think that they're going to be fairly popular as well, and I am probably going to be off of this game. I know the lowest total on the board belongs to the Rockies. I really don't like playing Waka when I don't have to, and there are a lot of other options tonight. So I am probably going to be the guy who's fading Waka and probably fading most of this game.
Yeah, I have San Diego as one of the top stacks, but unfortunately, they're going to be one of the higher owned, I think, against Block. I just prefer Seattle, I think, and I even prefer in a weird way. I was about to say even Philly as a pivot. I don't know. Maybe talk about the Dodgers in a sec, I suppose. But Walk I have as kind of a good looking SP2 because of the matchup. Uh, you know, and I don't know what I want to do with it. I think I would just prefer Wu, but if Wu is going to be a zillion % owned, as we're thinking, maybe he will. Maybe Waka's not going to be that popular. Only because like in the next game we have like the big chalk. You can't play everybody. Maybe I'll end up playing Montgomery after all. I don't know. We'll talk about it again at 6. But Waka certainly rates to be a decent play. He's just not a guy I like to play. I don't know. That's the best way I could describe it. So San Diego and Waka is going to project well, but I really don't think I've ever played him in a big buy-in this year.
I'm sure that we've played him at like 6,500 or something in the past when he was that cheap, but 8,900, I don't know. Not for me. All right. Why don't you start off
I'll start with this. So Lance Lynn projects to be the best pitcher on the slate by basically a landslide, if you want to know the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to be whatever he is, 70% in the 55-55. I don't know, something like that. Maybe not only because Monday Night Football. It's the best I can describe it. But he's gonna be the big chalk. Has the matchup. Has the handedness. He's got, you know what I mean. He literally has everything in the spot. Not to mention the fact that so far I haven't been particularly impressed with anybody else on the slate. You want to know the truth?
Yeah.
So he's gonna, kind of, I won't say tough to fade because I mean, listen, it's baseball, but it's very, very solid. I kind of want to play Erod, even though playing anybody against the Dodgers is usually not a good idea. But again, I'm just looking for some kind of upside, on this slate. So I'm gonna consider taking a shot at him, and maybe you don't get the best Dodger lineup, because they're in cruise control. Maybe you don't get full at bats out of the top guys. Who knows? But I guess if he's still in the game will be close, and they're not pinch hitting for you know what I mean. Like, so maybe that's a little bit of a lofty expectation. I don't know. I mean, like, play guys against the Dodgers is usually not a great thing, but I'm just trying to find anything. And then on the Dodgers side, I mean, same thing. I mean, you're looking for a pivot, you may want to take a shot. So I don't know. I guess the Dodgers look fine. Watch the lineup. Be a little afraid of pinch hit risk, I guess. But on a slate like this, where Milwaukee's going to take just a ton of ownership, the White Sox will take a ton of ownership, and then I think the natural pivot, probably something like San Diego, and Houston. Maybe the Dodgers go underappreciated here. I don't know. What do you think here?
Yeah, I'll take the talent of the Dodgers, even though look, it is a lefty that they've struggled with lefties a little bit. I understand that getting creative playing Erod play. I'm not going to do that myself.
I get it.
But I also do think that I think I could definitely. I'm probably going to end up getting to a Dodger 4-man or 5-man at some point today. So I actually do like the Dodgers. It's a lot ownership based. I think that stacking them up. So I like I do like the Milwaukee. There's some value. There's some
Wait, before you go away, before you agree about Lynn?
Yeah. Well, I was going to get to my pitch. Yeah, I was going to start with hitting then.
Okay. Oh, okay. I thought you were wrapping up already. Okay.
Yeah, you're right. I should have said it. Lynn is my top-rated pitcher. Most likely in my biggest buy-in, I probably will play him with Wu or Sears. I'm also open to the idea of Clevenger and Adon, to get a little different. But I like the idea of if I'm going to play Milwaukee, maybe keep it to 3. Or same thing with the White Sox. I would try to keep it at 3 or 4. And then play the Dodgers with them, play Texas with them, play Houston with them, play Philly with them. Those are the teams. I like all those. I like the good offenses that are expensive, and I think they're pretty easy to get to today. So I am probably going to side with that. As of right now, I have Texas as the best of that group, but it's very, very close between Texas, Houston, the Dodgers, and Philly for me. So that's probably what I'm going to end up doing. Pitching, like I said, Lim with one of Wu or Sears. I probably will just for fun throw out a Peralta Wheeler or a Peralta Verlander or Wheeler Verlander lineup just to go for maximum upside. But I mostly like spending the mid to low tier tonight.
Well, I don't exactly understand why they're. Well, you know Dodgers at baseball better than me. Why in an 11-2 game they're having them throw 111 pitches? But I'm not gonna argue with it. I guess the guy just throws.
I mean, he's always been a workworkhorse pitcher. It's
Yeah,
not especially. Yeah,
I guess they're more interested in preserving their bullpen than worrying about.
Well, it'd be nice if their whole entire pitching staff wasn't injured all year long.
Right.
It's funny because I always say Atlanta's the best team. I realize Atlanta's only 4.5 games better than the Dodgers, and the Dodgers have had literally none of their pitchers like the whole season.
Well, can I make a case against Lynn?
Yeah,
the guy hasn't struck in a stretch, has no strikeouts like in a while. That's it. That's my only problem.
Yeah, it's been a while. That's a really good point. And I have no issue if you want to fade Lynn tonight. I personally probably end up playing him. But if you guys want to fade, people want to fade him, I'm totally on board with the idea of doing it. I don't think you have to play him.
So we're not going to do before you wrap up. I'm trying. Oh, actually, you do your wrap up. Then I got one.
I kind of did mine already.
Yeah. So you're not going to do the Bob. We're not going to go like Wheeler Peralta or something, and then just see if we can.
I said I'll do one or two of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, I probably won't do it in the biggest buy-in though.
You like Peralta better than Verlander?
Yeah, probably. It's close. There's a pretty good price difference between the two of them. Yeah, I think I would probably rather play Peralta, but it's close. I don't know. I don't have a very strong take on it. It's not like what I'm trying to do desperately today, but it's certainly on the table. That's the question that you have to ask yourself: is what do you want to get? Do you want to get different with the spend ups at pitching, where they're going to have a similar range of outcomes, or do you want to get different by playing the Dodgers, Philly, Texas, Houston?
Right.
And trying to go for the ultimate upside from a hitting standpoint.
I hope Wainwright has enough tricks to keep Milwaukee off his ass.
Or stack 4-4 with Milwaukee, which is what I currently am doing with the Dodgers right now in my biggest build. For what it's worth, the Dodgers have seen Erod a few times, and he's never gotten any of them out. But it's very, very limited times. I think he's pitched against us like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, for what it's worth, again, my favorites are Seattle and the White Sox, and then in San Diego, and fade Milwaukee, and pitching Lynn top option along with Montgomery, Wu, and then Waka Sears, but I'm not playing Sears. So,
do you always win when you stack Seattle? I feel like you do.
I don't always win when I stack Seattle, but Seattle always goes off when I stack Seattle. Sometimes I do anyway. Like the last time they played, they scored 8 runs, and I didn't win. But I don't know. I like playing them against these kind of weak lefties. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's I know who I want to play. I got the guys in the lineup I want. What I usually end up doing, depending on the slate, I will decide whether I want to play everybody except Julio or throw Julio in, because Julio is just so much more expensive than everybody else on the team.
Yeah.
You know? And I got no problem with playing like Teoscar and Suarez and France and who's the and Dylan Moore. You know what I mean? Like I'll put those guys in, save some money if I need to play a better pitcher, and if I can afford to get Julio in and don't care about salary, I'll play Julio instead of one of them. I just know who I'm playing. And as long as Colorado is still on the team, I'm going to keep stacking it.
Absolutely, why not? Yeah, and by the way, it's a very tight race with Houston, the Rangers, and Mariners all for that AL West. So everybody's going to be putting their best foot forward for whatever that's worth. All right, well, we're going to probably get out of here, guys. Good luck, and we'll see you at 6 Eastern. And Cheats, you want to do a quick NFL one?
Yeah.
All right, great. Good luck, everybody, and we'll